The strategic landscape of the Middle East in early 2026 has reached a fever pitch, evolving from a series of isolated skirmishes into a comprehensive theater of operations. Operation Epic Fury, the massive aerial campaign initiated by the United States and its regional partners, has transitioned from a phase of rapid neutralization to one of sustained, crushing dominance. While the initial waves of the conflict focused on stealth-driven technology and high-altitude precision bombing, the latest tactical shifts suggest the Pentagon is digging deeper into its specialized tactical inventory. The most striking evidence of this shift emerged from a United States Central Command, or CENTCOM, official report released on March 15, 2026. This intelligence briefing featured high-definition imagery of a legendary platform returning to the front lines, the A-10 Thunderbolt II, colloquially known to generations of service members as the Warthog. This deployment is not merely a symbolic gesture of military strength. It represents a fundamental pivot in the aerial engagement rules of this specific conflict. The A-10 is an airframe designed for a world that many modern military theorists believed had vanished, a world defined by close air support and low-altitude persistence. According to CENTCOM's official communication, these aircraft were captured by aerial photographers while receiving mid-air refueling to support missions deep within the current operational zone. This specific capability is critical because the Warthog's greatest tactical asset in the 2026 combat environment is its ability to loiter. Unlike supersonic fighters like the F-35 or F-22 Raptors, which are designed to dash in, eliminate high-value targets, and exit the airspace rapidly to avoid detection, the A-10 is built to remain over the target area for extended periods. Global military analysts, including those from Jane's Defense Weekly, note that for such a non-stealthy, rugged aircraft to operate effectively, the combat environment must be permissive. This condition has apparently been achieved through a brutal campaign of attrition. The Israel Defense Force, or IDF, recently disclosed that their coordinated efforts with the United States successfully neutralized approximately 80% of the Iranian regime's integrated air defense networks during the opening 48 hours of the war. This systematic dismantling has left massive gaps in radar coverage across the Iranian mainland, creating pockets of safe airspace where the Warthog can now operate with relative impunity. For the Iranian leadership, the silhouette of a Warthog on the horizon is a psychological blow as much as a physical one. It signals that Western forces no longer fear the regime's surface-to-air missile capabilities and are prepared for a more permanent, grinding form of warfare. The A-10's presence suggests a move toward armed overwatch, a strategy where the aircraft stays in the sky for hours, waiting for mobile targets to emerge in real time, rather than following a preset flight path. This is particularly relevant as the Pentagon monitors the potential deployment of 1,200 United States Marines to the region, a move reported by several major news outlets that could shift the conflict from an air-only campaign to one involving complex ground-based operations. As United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth noted in recent briefings, coalition forces have already hit over 15,000 strategic targets during the course of Operation Epic Fury. However, the inclusion of the A-10 suggests the campaign is entering a more granular phase, the complete suppression of the regime's remaining mobile assets and literal threats in the Persian Gulf. This raises a critical question for regional observers and global energy markets. Is the Warthog's arrival simply to mop up the remains of a broken military? Or is it the vanguard for a much larger amphibious operation designed to seize control of the Strait of Hormuz once and for all? The technical revelation of the A-10's deployment in 2026 is not merely defined by its presence, but by the specific combat configuration revealed in recent intelligence photographs. When United States Central Command, or CENTCOM, released imagery of the Warthog receiving fuel in flight, seasoned military observers immediately looked past the refueling boom to the ordnance hanging from the wings. The payload tells a story of an aircraft prepared for a highly versatile and persistent mission profile, far removed from the singular, tank-busting role of the Cold War. The most striking addition to the arsenal is the Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, or APKWS guided rockets. These systems represent a sophisticated low-cost solution for neutralizing high-volume threats, such as swarming drones or fast attack boats, without exhausting the Pentagon's inventory of multi-million-dollar missiles. Alongside these precision rockets, the Warthogs in Operation Epic Fury are carrying a lethal triple-threat mix, AIM-9LM Sidewinder missiles for air-to-air defense and AGM-65 Maverick air-to-ground missiles. The Maverick in particular transforms the A-10 into a standoff precision machine capable of striking Iranian logistical assets, fuel sites, and transport infrastructure from a distance that keeps the pilot outside the reach of remaining point defenses. This loadout, combined with the legendary GAU-8/A7 barrel Gatling gun, a 30mm weapon capable of shredding armored columns, makes the Warthog the most flexible platform currently operating in the Iranian theater. The strategic advantage of this weaponry is magnified by the A-10's unique flight characteristics. In the high-stakes environment of 2026, where the United States and Israel have already degraded 80% of the regime's air defenses, the Warthog can exploit its ability to fly low and slow. While modern fighter jets are forced to fly at high altitudes and extreme speeds to maintain safety, the Warthog can operate under a 1,000-foot ceiling with a visibility range of 1.5 miles. This allows pilots to maintain a visual on the ground that sensors and satellites sometimes miss. Furthermore, the aircraft's titanium armor, often called the bathtub, protects the pilot and flight controls from direct hits up to 23 millimeters, ensuring that even if the regime manages a lucky shot with small-caliber anti-aircraft fire, the Warthog can likely remain in the fight. This loitering capability is the cornerstone of the current American strategy. A fighter jet typically executes a strike and exit maneuver because its high fuel consumption and speed make staying over a target risky and inefficient. In contrast, the A-10 can hang in the sky for hours, serving as a persistent sentinel. If a target is acquired, the Warthog strikes. If more targets appear, it returns to its holding pattern until its 16,000-pound ordnance capacity is exhausted. This creates a state of perpetual vulnerability for the Iranian military. As defense analysts from Reuters have noted, the inability to move equipment without being spotted by a loitering A-10 has effectively paralyzed the regime's remaining mobile ground forces. However, as the conflict shifts toward the coast, one must wonder, can this aging ground attack legend adapt its heavy-hitting tactics to the complex, asymmetric maritime environment of the world's most dangerous waterway? The systematic dismantling of Iran's Integrated Air Defense System, or IADS, has fundamentally altered the calculus of air superiority in early 2026. According to official Israel Defense Force assessments, 80% of the regime's defensive umbrella was neutralized within the opening salvos of the conflict. This tactical collapse has created what military planners call permissive bubbles, vast areas of clear and safe air over Iran that are no longer contested by high-end anti-air missiles. For the A-10 Thunderbolt II, an aircraft the United States Air Force has attempted to decommission on multiple occasions in favor of stealthier platforms, this environment represents a historical and strategic reprieve. The obsolete label has been effectively stripped away as the Warthog proves its worth in a theater where brute force and persistence are more valuable than low radar cross-sections. The Warthog was originally forged in the fires of the Cold War, designed specifically to provide close air support to forces on the ground, a role that involves engaging targets at extremely close range. While the United States has not yet committed massive numbers of boots on the ground, in the 2026 campaign, the arrival of 1,200 United States Marines signals a shift toward that possibility. However, in the current absence of major infantry engagement, the Warthog has adapted its capabilities for a broader offensive mission under Operation Epic Fury. It is no longer just a tank buster. It is a persistent sentinel of the sky. In this loiter and destroy phase, the A-10's performance exceeds that of modern fighter jets. A traditional fighter jet operates on a strike and exfiltrate doctrine, getting in, hitting the target, and exiting at high speed to minimize exposure to radar. At low altitudes, these high-speed maneuvers are incredibly difficult to control and put the pilot at risk from even scattered low-tech air defenses. The A-10, conversely, is designed to fly slower, providing pilots with superior control and visibility while operating under a 1,000-foot ceiling. It can stay in the air for hours, awaiting real-time orders to strike newly identified targets. This ability to hang around is the key to sustained aerial firepower. Assuming they still have weapons on board, Warthogs can strike return to a loitering pattern and strike again as soon as the next target is acquired. This creates a state of perpetual vulnerability for the Iranian regime's military infrastructure. As United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth recently noted, coalition forces have already engaged 15,000 enemy targets. With the Warthog now fully unleashed, the variety of targets is expanding to include logistical assets and transport infrastructure that were previously difficult to monitor continuously. Western military experts from organizations like Jane's Defense Weekly observed that this layered aerial assault is sending a chilling message to Tehran. The United States is demonstrating that it can bring different types of airframes into the battle, as the situation allows systematically stripping away the regime's security apparatus. This resurgence of the A-10 also challenges the stealth-only doctrine that has dominated NATO strategic thinking for 2 decades, proving that rugged specialized aircraft still have a place in modern high-intensity conflicts. But as the campaign moves from the mainland to the coast, can this ground attack legend handle the asymmetric swarms of the Iranian Navy in the narrow, mine-choked waters of the Strait of Hormuz? As the strategic focus of Operation Epic Fury shifts toward the littoral zones, the economic stability of the 2026 global market hinges on the security of a single volatile waterway. The Strait of Hormuz remains the ultimate geopolitical lever for the Iranian regime, as roughly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil and gas sales pass through this narrow corridor. To counter this, the United States has deployed a surprising asset to protect its naval interests, the A-10 Thunderbolt II. Traditionally a ground attack platform, the Warthog is now being utilized to protect littoral combat ships operating in the Persian Gulf and the Strait. This unconventional maritime role was highlighted by reports from the war zone, which detailed exercises between the A-10 and the USS Santa Barbara, a littoral combat ship currently tasked with ensuring freedom of navigation. The integration of these assets suggests a sophisticated understanding of asymmetric naval warfare, where a slow-moving, heavily armed aircraft acts as a predator against the regime's small boat swarms. The primary concern for coalition naval forces is the threat of maritime area denial through the use of sea mines and fast attack craft. By March 10, 2026, intelligence reports cited by CNN indicated that Iran had begun laying mines in an attempt to block commercial tanker and container traffic. Although United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth later noted that there was no definitive evidence of a full-scale mining operation at that exact moment, the strategic concern remains central to the Pentagon's planning. In this context, the A-10 provides a critical layer of defense for mine-clearing vessels that would otherwise be vulnerable to harassment. The aircraft's ability to fly low and slow allows pilots to maintain visual contact with the water's surface, identifying fast attack boats or unmanned surface vessels before they can close the distance to high-value naval assets. Military experts from Jane's Defense Weekly suggest that the Warthog's loiter and destroy mission is uniquely suited for this environment. Unlike high-speed interceptors that burn fuel rapidly, the A-10 can stay on station for hours, providing a persistent deterrent against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy's tactics. This maritime adaptation has been refined through years of development. As far back as 2017, the United States military conducted exercises in Florida, where the Warthog simulated attacks on dozens of small boats, proving its effectiveness as a standoff aircraft against naval threats. In 2026, this capability is no longer a simulation. It is a necessity for maintaining global energy flows and supporting the ongoing destruction of the regime's military infrastructure. The strategic significance of using the A-10 in this capacity cannot be overstated for NATO and its Western allies. By pairing the Warthog with littoral combat ships, the Pentagon is creating a flexible, cost-effective counter to gray zone tactics that seek to disrupt trade without triggering a full-scale naval engagement. The Warthog's presence sends a clear message the United States is prepared to use every available airframe to ensure the strait remains open, stripping away the regime's last piece of leverage. This evolution of the A-10 from a tank buster to a maritime guardian illustrates a broader trend in Western military doctrine, the revitalization of rugged low-cost platforms to combat asymmetric threats. However, as the Warthog patrols the sun-drenched waters of the Gulf, its most complex challenge may not be found on the water, but in the high-volume swarms of low-cost drones filling the skies. If the regime pivots to a saturation attack of unmanned aerial vehicles, will the Warthog's traditional cannons be enough to maintain control of the air? In the asymmetrical aerial landscape of 2026, the greatest challenge to Western air superiority is no longer a rival fifth-generation fighter, but the relentless swarm of low-cost suicide drones. Central to the Iranian regime's strategy is the Shahed drone, an airframe that has become synonymous with modern attrition warfare due to its extensive use in recent global conflicts. While the Iranian regime initially launched over 2,000 of these low-cost assets within the first 6 days of the current conflict, the intensity of these strikes has reportedly plummeted by 95% as Operation Epic Fury has systematically targeted launch sites and manufacturing hubs. Despite this reduction, the remaining drone threat continues to test the economic and tactical resolve of the United States and its NATO allies. The dilemma for modern military planners is one of asymmetric attrition. A single Shahed drone costs the Iranian regime between $20,000 and $50,000 to produce. Traditionally, intercepting such a target required sophisticated surface-to-air missiles or air-to-air interceptors costing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars per unit. As financial analysts from Time magazine have observed, trading a $1 million missile for a $50,000 drone is a terrible return on investment that rapidly depletes Western stockpiles, while the adversary continues to produce high volumes of low-cost ordnance. This economic imbalance is where the A-10 Warthog has found a critical new purpose in 2026. To counter this threat, the Pentagon has integrated the Fixed-Wing Air-Launched Counter-Unmanned Aerial Systems Ordnance, or FALCO, which is now cleared for use on the A-10. This system allows the Warthog to utilize the Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, or APKWS, against aerial targets in addition to ground nodes. Forbes reported in August 2025 that the APKWS provides a per-unit cost of approximately $35,000, effectively matching the price point of the Shahed drones it is designed to destroy. Because the A-10 can carry such sizable quantities of these rockets, it has become a highly efficient drone hunter, capable of patrolling the Persian Gulf for hours and shooting down slow-moving propeller-driven threats with surgical precision. This shift in tactics represents a broader strategic realization within NATO. The ability of the A-10 to loiter and utilize cost-effective ordnance ensures that the United States does not eat into its own stockpiles of more expensive strategic missiles while dealing with low-end threats. By maintaining a persistent presence in the air, the Warthog forces the regime to realize that its drone swarms are being neutralized at a rate that provides no tactical or economic advantage. This Shahed killer role has breathed new life into an airframe that many considered a relic of the past, proving that in the high-tech wars of the future, the most effective solution is often the one that balances lethality with economic sustainability. As the A-10 continues to dominate the drone-filled skies over the Gulf, it sends a message that the United States is engaging in a layered and sustainable aerial campaign. However, as the regime's traditional security apparatus continues to crumble, a more profound geopolitical question emerges. Will the total dismantling of these regional threats lead to a new era of Western-led stability? Or is the sudden vacuum of power in the Middle East setting the stage for an even larger global confrontation involving the world's major superpowers? The geopolitical implications of Operation Epic Fury extend far beyond the immediate borders of the Middle East, signaling a fundamental shift in Western military doctrine for the late 2020s. By deploying the A-10 Thunderbolt II in such a high-stakes environment, the United States has demonstrated that the complete dismantlement of a dictatorial regime's security apparatus requires more than just high-altitude stealth. It requires a persistent, crushing aerial presence that remains visible to the adversary at all times. This layered assault campaign has effectively utilized different airframes as the tactical situation allowed, proving that once air superiority is established, the loiter and strike capability of rugged platforms like the Warthog becomes the ultimate tool for regime collapse. For NATO and its Western allies, the success of the Warthog in 2026 provides a crucial case study in strategic sustainability. The ability to neutralize high-volume, low-cost threats like the Shahed drone using the cost-effective APKWS system has resolved a primary economic concern of modern warfare, the depletion of expensive missile stockpiles against cheap, mass-produced targets. This economic calculus is vital as the West looks toward long-term stability in a world where asymmetric threats are becoming the norm. United States President Donald Trump, in comments reported on March 13, 2026, emphasized the severity of this new phase, claiming that the regime would be hit very hard as coalition forces moved to finish the job. The human and material toll on the Iranian military has been staggering. United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth recently noted that coalition forces have already successfully engaged 15,000 enemy targets during the course of the operation. With the Warthog now leading the charge against remaining ground naval and aerial nodes, the regime is witnessing the systematic evaporation of its last remaining defenses. Perhaps most importantly, the A-10 is paving the way for the next critical phase, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. By stripping away the regime's ability to use the world's most vital energy waterway as leverage, the United States is effectively ending the regime's capacity to threaten global economic stability. While some military theorists in the United States once viewed the A-10 as an obsolete relic of the Cold War, its performance in 2026 has silenced its critics. The Iranian regime certainly hoped it would never see this tank buster in its skies, as the sheer variety of its uses, from protecting mine-clearing vessels to hunting drones, has proved insurmountable. Before the commencement of Operation Epic Fury, many feared that a direct confrontation with Iran would trigger the start of World War III. However, the rapid collapse of the regime's military infrastructure under the weight of American firepower suggests that this specific regional conflict may no longer be the global trigger once feared. As we look toward the remainder of 2026, the focus shifts to ensuring that the power vacuum left behind does not destabilize the region further. While the Iranian threat appears to be neutralizing, analysts warn of 5 other global conflicts that could still spark a wider international war this year. The lessons learned from the Warthog's resurgence will undoubtedly influence how the West approaches these future flashpoints. Does the success of Operation Epic Fury prove that traditional rugged military power is still the best deterrent against modern autocracies? Or are we simply witnessing the final act of an old era of warfare before the next global storm breaks? The 2026 deployment of the A-10 Thunderbolt II against the Iranian regime marks a turning point in modern aerial warfare. Following the destruction of 80% of Iran's air defenses by the United States and Israel, the Warthog has been unleashed to perform its signature loiter and destroy missions. Equipped with a versatile payload including APKWS guided rockets and Maverick missiles, the A-10 is successfully neutralizing diverse threats ranging from armored ground units to fast attack boats and low-cost Shahed drones. A critical aspect of this campaign is the economic sustainability of the A-10's anti-drone role. By using the $35,000 APKWS system to destroy $50,000 drones, the United States has avoided the terrible return on investment associated with using million-dollar cruise missiles for the same task. Beyond the mainland, the A-10 is securing the Strait of Hormuz by protecting mine-clearing littoral combat ships and escorting commercial vessels, thereby neutralizing the regime's primary economic leverage. With 15,000 targets already hit, and the regime's security apparatus in a state of collapse, the A-10 has transitioned from a supposedly obsolete airframe to the vanguard of Operation Epic Fury. This demonstration of persistent crushing firepower has not only reshaped the Middle Eastern landscape, but has also provided NATO with a new blueprint for tackling asymmetric threats in the late 2020s. As the Iranian regime faces its final days, the global community remains watchful of other 2026 flashpoints that could still test the limits of Western strategic resolve.